we've got a little bit of Malleus once again. Funky little matchup. We got the brother captain played by Inekura going up against the Ravener Alpha of Dark Riku on Greentooth Gorge. So a nice big map for the Ravener Alpha here with his tunnels. However, a map with a lot of garrisons, which is always very irritating as a Tyranid player. So we're going to have to see how Ini is going to be able to utilise these garrisons. Now we're only seeing one strike squad at the moment and a fast node, so no second IST is expected here. Ravener meeting the IST quite early on here is bad for the IST. Yeah, it forces an instant retreat because they don't want to bleed. Now, Blessed Aegis on the brother captain got buffed with this patch very recently, and I would expect to see a duo of strike squads, but perhaps not actually, given that a generator's already going up. In fact, no. With a generator going up, you have to assume there will not be a second strike squad, certainly not early anyway. Perhaps we'll get it later on. So Riku scouts that, and he sees the generator has been dropped, so let's see what he's going to do about it, I suppose. Not really sure where the brother captain's going at the moment. This must be a strange miss micro. This is very... Or is he going into the base to destroy the tunnel? Oh, that is so annoying. Because the Tyranid turrets are so slow. They're kind of garbage. And... apparently they don't knock over the brother captain. I thought they did ability knockback. Anyway, whatever. So he just walks into the frigging base, runs over the tunnel to destroy it. Super annoying for Dark Riku. Strike squad so far, completely uncontested. It's going to take basically the entire army of Dark Riku to force off this strike squad, yet they only cap at the speed of one unit, right? So Dark Riku is just going to ignore them for now. He's kind of getting himself into a bit of a tricky spot here, where he's pincered between strike squad and purgation. Purgation right now will get tied up by the Ravener Alpha though, and then Termagants can turn around and focus fire them, which will be a nice little situation for them. So the strike squad are going to come over, try and deal with this Ravener Alpha, and it looks like the Purgation are going to take the garrison here, which is part of the problem with this map for Riku. It's very difficult. Now you've got Hormagaunts and double Termagants and the Ravener all fighting the strike squad. This is too much DPS even for the strike squad. Now warriors are moving in, providing synapse and a little bit extra DPS. This is not a good situation for the strike squad, but they've managed to get out of here with 0 model losses, so that's pretty cool. Purgation doing fantastic for now, but there is a Barb Strangler Warrior Brood now on the field, so that is an anti-garrison option that the Tyranids have, and to be honest, it is a unit that is very meta against the Malleus anyway, so I've been experimenting with going for Purgation into Interceptors, which I think is a pretty effective build, but the Brother Captain, you can probably get away with not going for the Interceptors just because the Brother Captain himself is so tanky. Go for a double strike squad build instead. But no, we're going to see double Purgation from Inekura here, so we'll see how this goes for him. Now typically in the current meta you want to go for double warriors as the Tyranid. The low amount of models on the warriors and the heavy infantry armor helps them become really tanky. I mean, you can basically only do reasonable damage to them with melee. And given there's only one strike squad at the moment, there's not a lot of melee DPS in the field, so I think double warriors right now would be really strong against Inekura's composition. Once again, we see the IST very fearful of the Ravener Alpha because the Ravener will bleed those models extremely quickly. You've got to remember, default IST only have the same HP per model as Guardsmen, so they're extremely squishy. So, a decent push coming through here, but honestly, I don't like this. Like, the Barb Strangler might be able to wipe the Purgation. Very close. They have to retreat out. Now, luckily there was a bit of a miss micro from Riku, moving his Termagants a little bit too far forward and actually getting them suppressed by the Purgation, because right now, the Barb Strangler is having to focus fire the strike squad to prevent them from being able to get into melee with them. So the Purgation do actually force off the Termagants, and it looks like the warriors are moving into melee the Purgation, but It's a bit of a dubious prospect when there are the strike squad there. I mean, it's okay, I guess it stops the gem bash, so could be worse. One warrior brood model has gone down. Just has to be careful not to lose the squad, like. Raveners are now on the field, okay. They're going to burrow in, disrupt the strike squad, but Purgation have not actually retreated, they only backed off. So they're going to be able to suppress the Raveners. And Bow Strangler misses its next attack, another warrior brood model goes down. You've now got strike squad potentially in the retreat path of these Raveners. The Raveners are really trying to force off the Purgation squad, but it's actually ill-advised, and the Raveners now have to retreat through the strike squad. Will they lose a model? Yes, they will. Homogot's doing a good job with the map control here. If we look at the map, it is very, very favoured for Dark Riku at the moment, and the Homogot's there managing to decap the natural requisition point of Inekura. The second Purgation squad finally coming out of the base and forcing them off. Brocap does have full tanky investment right now in his tier 1. He's got the Blessed Aegis armor and the Unending Purge accessory, so that gives him plus 100 max HP, a little bit of HP regen, but most importantly that 4 damage per energy shield. And the reason why it is weaker than most is of course because Strike Squad can give him 50 energy with their ability, Purification, and then he can get an extra 75 energy on demand via his global Sanctify. So you combine those traits and he is a very tanky boy. Then you've got Unending Purge, which you see you just use the global there to get a load more HP. But this is a dodgy engagement here. Strike Squad far too low on HP, Purgation compromised already by the Hormagaunts, and yeah, the push is forced off pretty well. Purgation trying to cap back some of the map here, IST doing likewise, really could do with taking out this tunnel. But to finish speaking about the Brother Captain, he's got this Unending Purge now as well, so every time he attacks in melee, 1.15% of his max HP is returned, and every time he attacks in ranged, he gets 0.5%. And he gets passive increases to his energy regeneration. So all of this synergizes very well with the Blessed Aegis. When you are lacking HP but have a lot of energy, you turn on the shield, and then you get your HP back while your shield is up because you're regenning it from the hits with the Unending Purge. Then, when you're lacking energy, you've got your regen from the Blessed Aegis and the Purge healing, and you're getting extra passive energy regen to fuel your shield. Your HP goes down, you turn the shield back on, etc, etc. I'm sure you can imagine how powerful that can be. But Tyranids are one of those factions that has certainly a lot of DPS to dish out, so, you know, the counter to this play is to have enough DPS that he isn't tying up your ranged units forever. The Tyranids have that, so we'll see how effective it does. Obviously in tier 1 it's not that big of a deal either because the Brother Captain doesn't do particularly high amounts of DPS. In tier 2 when the Brother Captain gets the presumably Force Halberd, it might be a little bit more problematic. Looks like a Purgation might go down here from the Hormagaunts. The other Purgation squad is using its ability to snare the units, but the Raveners take it out with their Devourers, and that is one of the Purgation squads down for Inekura. VPs right now are perfectly even with the 1-to-1 cap, 367 VPs for each player, so things aren't too bad for Inekura in spite of that loss. Both players going to tier 2 at relatively similar times. Dark Riku is slightly ahead, but of course the Tyranid tier 2 is far less scary than the Order Malleus one. Oh my god! The Ravener Brood there, forcing melee on the IST and then getting a nice little barrage of Devourer shots off, actually wiping the IST. Perhaps Raveners are actually quite a good choice, not just the Warrior Brood.
The enemy falters, but he is not yet beaten.
So we've got a Venom Brood coming out so far, which makes sense because you currently have 3 ranged units that can all be buffed by the ranged synapse, and one would have to expect a Rhino is coming out because the Rhino is a very traditionally powerful tool against the Tyranids. No upgrades yet on the Ravener, so we'll have to see what he gets. I would expect that he would end up getting the Corrosive Devourer. A little scrap here between the Strike Squad and the Hormagaunts. Hormagaunts getting kind of wrecked, as you would expect, with only 55 melee skill there. More of a supportive melee unit, you know, they're all about the DPS, but they don't want to just be 1v1ing melee units because they just get specialed. You see that there with the Strike Squad, and really that was just a really bad engagement by Riku because it's fed the Strike Squad a load of XP it otherwise wouldn't have had. Inekura pushing a bit too deep here with the Rhino, not expecting the Venom Brood to already be there, but Riku has it preemptively, and he's now got the ranged Synapse kicking into action as well, and now all these ranged Tyranids are going to be buffed up. We see the 4x Swarm upgrade coming in for the Barb Strangler Warrior. So he's able to retain his Barb Strangler, get a little bit more HP, a little bit more movement speed, and most importantly, the Electroshock Grub, which is able to stun the Rhino if it gets too close, basically acting like a Melter Bomb. Once again, we've seen the Sanctified Global there on the Brother Captain, giving him a lot more energy, but honestly, not that powerful. Not that powerful. Even the Canticle of Absolution Global going down, giving HP regen and energy regen in an AoE, but honestly, I don't know about this usage of so much red for Inekura. I don't really feel like it was a very important engagement, and besides, the Brother Captain was all on his own without a weapon upgrade, so he's just not contributing that much at all. You know, he's getting in there now, attacking some Warrior Brood, probably will bleed a model soon, but if he had a Halberd, oh my god, this would be quite brutal. I mean, he's staying in play, the Venom Brood are now caught out by the Strike Squad. With the repairs going down to the Rhino, the Venom Brood definitely aren't going to be able to wipe it out with just fire on the move. And here we go, we've got the Nemesis Force Halberd coming in for the Brother Captain now. Purgation actually putting in a lot of work there, managed to finish off the gen farm of the Tyranids, suppressing one of the Terminator squads and forcing them off, and now attempting to do so with the second one. The Ravenous trying to prevent this getting into melee with the Purgation squad and forcing them off, but now he has to contend with this very, very scary Brother Captain with the Force Halberd. And I would expect the Ravenous probably going to be retreating away from him. Yeah, there you go. Definitely doesn't want anything to do with that. So map control is turning around actually. Inekura hilariously stealing the final Tyranid generator here for himself. Because of course he has had his own farm wiped by the Tyranid range blob already. No, I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to this farm for too long, but having the extra energy income for now, I'm sure he will much appreciate whilst he has a bit of time to build up his own gen farm. So it looks like with the IST, oh yeah, they got wiped out by the Ravener Brood, didn't they? So they've had to be replaced. Now the Brother Captain here is just going to charge forward, probably going to be looking for that Venom Brood, which is coming up near the back, but honestly, kind of overextended, and he's out of cover right now, snared by the Termagants, getting focus fired wonderfully by all this Tyranid range blob. Might even go down and retreat. This is a lot of Tyranid range DPS, and he does go down. Damaged Synapse is on the field as well for the Ravener Alpha right now, and this is a terrifying ranged blob. So we're going to see Purifiers being used to try and counter it. I mean, you need to basically throw melee at it for sure. You don't want to be trying to trade with this at ranged. So Purifiers, Interceptors, Strike Squad, all very viable choices. I think Interceptors would be probably a better choice than Purifiers, but we'll have to see. In theory, if you can get your Brother Captain, the Purifiers, and the Strike Squad together and attack the blob all at once with all three of them, well, there's no way that the blob can't focus fire all three units.
Understood.
So at least two of them will probably end up getting into melee and being able to fuck that shit up. But we'll see how Dark Riku can respond to it. You know, he's got the option of getting Tyrant Guards, he's got Gene Stealers as an option to try and counter-initiate some of this Ordo Malleus melee. He could even go for Acid Splatter on the Ravener Alpha, to be fair. So far though, just moving around, posturing, trying to see if he can catch the Rhino out of position, hit it with an Electroshock Grub and then take it down with the Venom Brood. Strike Squad here, level 3, very powerful, but moving in alone against the Bow Strangler, not really an ideal situation there, just going to get suppressed and focus fired. Not really very difficult for Dark Riku to deal with there. Purifiers are on the field now, looks like they might have killed one or two Termagants, got a little bit of XP for themselves. Just going to be taking out generators, which I guess is better than nothing. It gives Inekura a little bit of XP. And Riku's got a crazy amount of resources, really should be replacing his generators. Yeah, there you go. Triple gens is being rebuilt. He's got a massive, massive excess of requisition at this point. Venombrood looking a little bit isolated there, did manage to get off about half of the HP of the Rhino, but it will just be repaired. And the Brother Captain knows where they are now, so he can just move forward. And unlike the Strike Squad, the Brother Captain cannot be suppressed, so it's a bit more challenging to stop him. Needs his Termagants nearby, basically, to be using that Crippling Poison and have the extra range DPS to focus fire. So yeah, no Termagants there for the ranged blob of Dark Riku, and that means that basically there's no counter to the Brother Captain. He gets in, ties up the Venombrood, then the Strike Squad can run in, and it's just a terrible engagement for Dark Riku. So he's going to opt for a Tyrant Guard to help try and counter-initiate the Brocap. Brocap 1v1 will actually do very well against the Tyrant Guard with this weapon. I mean, we're talking about an 83 DPS power melee weapon, and of course with this loadout the Brocap is very tanky as well. I don't think he'd be able to 1v1 the Tyrant Guard, but it'd be close. So the Tyrant Guard's not an amazing counter, but the thing is, the Brother Captain doesn't want to be 1v1ing a Tyrant Guard. The Brother Captain wants to be chasing down the Venombrood or the Barb Strangle the Warriors and preventing them from firing. So whilst he's doing that, the Tyrant Guard can just get free hits, basically. So it is a reasonable choice. It is a good tool to help counter-initiate the Brother Captain. I suspect that that Tyrant Guard will basically be escorting the Venombrood quite a lot. And it's a nice synergy because the Tyrant Guard benefits from a speed buff if he's near Synapse creatures. So it's a nice symbiotic relationship there between the Venombrood and the Tyrant Guard. VPs are currently in the favour of Dark Riku, but not for long because it is a 3-0 cap, well a 2-0 cap now. Few dead Termagants over there, but nothing major. Dead Gaunts in tier 2 is kind of what you expect, right? Terminator Librarian's now on the field, which is quite interesting. It's kind of annoying actually for Dark Riku because he's another... well, he's in Terminator armor, so he's immune to suppression and knockback, which is going to make it really difficult. Oh my god. Wow, look at that. So the Tyrant Guard really overextended there in order to try and kill the Purgation, and he actually managed it, which felt like it was a bit sloppy for Mini. I feel like he could have retreated a lot sooner. However, doing so for all that time meant that the Purifiers actually were able to wipe out the Tyrant Guard. You can't even go into Shield Wall against Purifiers since the Justicar has the heavy melee Thunderhammer. And Termagant's backing off. Not enough range DPS now to deal with the Brocap. Do you see a Zone Throw, which is an interesting choice. I suppose it provides you with that little bit of extra burst damage from long range against vehicles, which could be useful to try and snipe the Rhino. Other than that, I'm not really sure. It has that healing synergy with the Tyrant Guard, but I don't really feel like it benefits much else here, and I don't really know what its primary targets are going to be either. I feel like the big threats right now with this Terminator Librarian, the Brocap and the Rhino, and the Zonthorpe doesn't do amazing against any of them. It does a little bit against the Rhino, but not really anything against the Librarian or the Brocap, so I do find it a bit of a strange choice there. We'll see. Corrosive Devourer is now up for the Ravener Alpha. Kind of a no-brainer upgrade against any of the Marine races, to be honest. Plasma DPS, and a lot of it as well, 43 Plasma DPS. But it also is good anti-vehicle, courtesy of its ability, which gives it 50% extra damage against vehicles when you activate it. No, sorry, 250% extra damage against vehicles when you activate it. The weapon itself has a unique modifier to passively do 50% more to vehicles than normal plasma would do, for whatever reason. It's a very, very powerful upgrade against the Marine factions, especially if you do need a little bit more AV as well. Strike Squad committing pretty hard down here to try and wipe out this Zone Throw up, but not going to go too well for them. I mean, they force the Zone Throw up back, but they lose 3 models for it, including the Justicar, which is really ideal. Dark Riku is going tier 3 at this point, but the thing that he needs to be worrying about really is the VPs, because he's getting precariously close to that 0 mark. Less than 110 at the moment. It is a 3-0 cap against him. Don't know if tier 3 is the choice, really. I guess he probably feels like he doesn't have many other good choices in tier 2 to get, but kind of just needs bodies in the field right now to make sure he can cap.
We shall make it so.
Brocap has been a bit of a nuisance because the Tyranids are trying to split up to get better map control, but you really do need that focus fire to just get rid of him quickly. I mean, obviously he can 1v1 basically any squad in the Tyranid roster. So Raveners do get a decap there, but not able to actually finish. Purify's just charging forward right now, bleeding models. Not really great usage of them, but they're delaying, which is obviously the point. Brother Captain just going to face tank with his Blessed Aegis. Just going to face tank and go for the VP. Why not, I suppose. Rhino gets taken out, I didn't even see that. Completely missed it. I'm guessing it was just a bit of a missed micro because it didn't look like... I don't know, maybe the melter bomb did go off. Either way, Innie is just delaying as much as possible, and he's got it. He's won on the delay, I think. Yeah. Sanctuary preventing the Termagants from being able to decap here is beautiful. Yep. And it takes too long. Brother Captain capping the point there, just face tanking the fucking Raveners. Termagants a little bit too slow to get over there. So, you know, honestly, looking at the economy and the fact that Innie lost all these units, it was obviously going in favour of Dark Riku. Innie, of course, at this point was intentionally throwing units forward and bleeding models in order to delay the VP cap. So, if he didn't do that, I'm sure he would very much still be in the game. However, you know, looking at the roster, Dark Riku had a really good army here with all the buffs, the range synapse and the damage synapse, and the potential to soon have a Carnifex on the way, which I'm sure Inekura would have struggled with, but in this instance VPs meant that it didn't matter. Innie already has won. So there you go, that was a nice little game between the Brother Captain and the Ravener Alpha. Probably going to see a lot more of that given the Faction War tournament that's going on. But thank you for tuning in, folks. That's going to be all from your boy Torpid today. If you want more of this kind of thing, you can get it via the Patreon. $5 a month. You're going to get an extra cast once every 2 weeks for that. And you get access to a massive repository of previous casts, about 17 approximately at the time of this upload. Thank you for tuning in, folks. It's your boy Torpid, signing out.